להאמין, לראות שטוב, בלי להביט שוב לאחור, לבחור נכון. אותו הכל מדבר אליי, פוגש בי בלילות, הולך מבלי להבין לאן, האם מדע לחזור, מבט חטוף מסך.
I feel it. It tingles in my fingers, burning in my heart, lights up my head. The sensation of my body being synchronized sends rays of light through me. I say right, and my hands beautifully obeys and goes beyond the call of duty. To my mouth I say speak, and melody in stories flies through the window. How do I nourish that mouth and body that speaks? To my heart I say feel, and I can feel the gushing of being with you, touring all your canals and beauty of your soul, feeling the edges of toughness softening, becoming silly soft. I tell my soul in my head, search and no answer. Nothing. Radar silence. I repeat to my head, I repeat to my soul, find, and nothing. Silence. Sigh. I look up, releasing resistance, and I ask of my soul, and the gates open. Flood of light brightens it all. Staying on my path, despite the flood of what appears real. I feel it. It tingles in my fingers, burning in my heart, lights up my head, fires up my soul. הרי אני מקבל על עצמי את מצוות עשה של ואהבת לרעך כמוך. I hereby accept on myself the due commandment or the adherence of love your friend, your neighbor, your partner, your gardener, in the same way that you express love to yourself. And the focus is first on ourselves, on yourselves. Welcome, I'm iLan Azoulai. Welcome to Abracadabra, Create What You Speak. I'm your host. I'm a sound therapist, a spiritual mentor for you who are ready to reclaim your power. The power of your thought, the power of your intention. How do we choose? What do we choose? Welcome. The first part of focusing on the love to ourselves is how do we treat ourselves? How do we treat our bodies? How do we treat our soul? What food do we give to our soul? Do we give physical food? What food do we give to our body? Do we give healthy food? So, welcome. I'm happy to host a wonderful guest, Karin Adoni, and she is a certified nutritionist. And the unique thing about Karin is she works through combining body, mind, and soul. It is all connected, and she will talk to us. She will talk with us, and we'll have a conversation about her gifts and about how we can choose right when it comes to our body, because yes, our body is everything. But we're talking today about our body that will feed our body, our physical and our spiritual. So, without any more, here is Karin Adoni. Hello, Karin.
Hi, iLan. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank God, and thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. I'm glad to have you in such a short notice. It was a wonderful how things work. You know, when things work like this,
I agree.
calling the kissing points of our synchronicities.
I completely agree.
So, tell us, Karin, how are you? Who are you?
Well, I'm good, thank you. So I'm Karin Adoni Ben David. I'm a nutritionist and a health coach. I have a company for weight loss and mainly to create healthy lifestyle to help people transform their life, lose weight, change their emotional state of mind towards food, which is something that I work a lot about. So I work in three different aspects. I work on the nutritional side, like what really you need to eat, like food that nourish your body, that really help with the vitamins, with the minerals and everything. The educational part, which is so important because you have to understand what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just following something without having the real deep understanding. Why is it that you do that? And the third part, which is in my opinion the most important, the behavioral part. How are you changing your state of mind from not doing a diet to actually doing a lifestyle, to not following into emotional patterns, using food as an outlet, abusing food, which we all do. I come from a very personal background, other than this is my profession. The reason why I chose that profession, or the profession chose me, I say, I suffered from severe eating disorders for about 10 years of my life, from the age of 11 until 2021. And I was really consumed, with that obsessive thoughts, with lack of self-love, lack of self-appreciation, and food was an outlet for me. And obviously having a relationship with food, we all have, but sometimes the emotional part of it isn't about the food, it's about us having difficulties to deal with other things, and the food it's just numbing.
Yeah. This is, our food, what comes into our body, really, we decide what comes into our body. So it starts from somewhere, right? It's the same way why we don't eat or why we overeat. It starts from somewhere. And somewhere is how we are with ourselves. So there are three things there are a few things that you are working on. So it's not really, like you said, it's not really the food, but it's not the physical, it's not the action, but it is also mainly it is the perception of how we look at things and how we look at food and our relationship to food.
It's how we look at food, how we're looking at the relationship, and also learning, to understand that how are you creating to have the control over food and not controlling over you. And, I always say, listen, guys, food doesn't have emotions. That chocolate cake doesn't feel sad. That pizza doesn't feel happy. We create those emotions towards the food. And instead of dealing with something that maybe could be, especially these times, overwhelming, or stressful, or worrying, or whatever it is, each to his own, with his own set of worries, instead of dealing with the situation, or even just opening the news, that's
So what we bring inside, it's what we take inside is what will come out.
But it has to come out in some sort of a way.
That's right.
Food is always there, even though the DSM, like the Bible of the psychology, does not define food as an addiction. Just because it's available in a physical need, it is an addiction. It's probably the biggest addiction in the world. It's just.
So do you think that food is an addiction because it's a physical matter, or food is an addiction just like any other addiction?
I think we can't maybe define food as an addiction, because it's like,
because it's a matter.
Yeah, we have to.
Because it's a matter.
Yeah, we need it to survive. It's not like you're consuming drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or whatever it is, that it's not vital. It is vital. But that's what makes it harder, because sometimes in those addictions, it's black or white, yes or no. If you're an alcoholic, you can't have a sip of whiskey.
That's right. I want to make the distinction also between, let's say, food addiction to drugs or even hard drugs, because there are certain things that are taking over in such a magnitude, and that's usually that's also with drugs. So I want to make the distinction that there is distinctions between in the severity, let's say, between the food and the drugs. So I just want to clear this up.
There's differences, and for sure not every person who drinks wine has an alcohol problem, and for sure not a person who weighs 10 pounds overweight doesn't necessarily have an addiction towards
That's right.
food. We're not talking about that. There's a distinct difference between a person who loves food and enjoys food and cooks it, and it's a part of their enjoyment, all about it. I also created 3 recipe books, so I'm all about cooking, loving, enjoying food. But then on the other hand, abusing the food into numbing emotions that are overwhelming or too much for us to deal or to handle with. And that's the difference.
That's right. So there is the difference in we just talked about these differences. Now you said that at age of 11 you starting having issues with food. Now the reasons, do you find that, we'll talk about about what happened there, but do you find that did you find a similar story to yours with the clients that you work with, like
for sure
to the dot? You know,
so,
I mean, so, you know,
yeah,
some variances, but
I think, listen, I don't usually, I had a very severe eating disorder. I was borderline anorexic. I needed to be hospitalized. I wasn't eventually, because I was able to get myself out of, not myself, with therapy and everything. Yeah. I don't work with those so much severe situation cases because I don't specialize in that. But then on the other hand, for me, doing what I'm doing, it's not only being educated about it or have the certifications or the 4 years of school and etc., but it's more of also understanding the emotional aspect. I completely understand when a person says to me, if I have like a box of chocolate in the house, I can't, be calm or laid back until it's all gonna end. The food is calling me from the refrigerator, the cake is calling I can really relate because.
So what is the first step when somebody tells you that, if I have a box of chocolates, I cannot resist myself. I will find myself eating it. If I don't have it at home, then especially now with a quarantine, okay, if I don't have it at home, I know many people that stopped many patterns and addictions just because of the corona and because of the situation. Sorry?
Stopped or started, depends what.
No, stopped. Well, they stopped. I know people that went down a lot of weight starting working out. People stopped smoking, so it is because they can go, this kind of things. So, I lost my train of thought.
So I think basically to say what happens if a person says that he feels like.
Yes. What is the first step that? Thank you. What is the first step? Thank you. Welcome to the program. Thank you.
I listen.
I was testing you. Yeah. No, but what is the first, when somebody tells you, do you start talking right away about the food, or do you start going to see about different personal journeys? Yeah, about how did they start? What's the trigger?
So that's a great question, actually. So first I'd say, and I talk a lot about it with my clients and Zoom calls and etc. I say, first of all, in order to treat the emotional part, we first physically need to balance you. And that means that many people, and that goes more into the nutritional part of it, that struggle with food also don't have good eating habits. They usually don't eat enough. They skip meals. They fast for many hours. They don't eat enough vegetables. They don't eat enough proteins. Yes, there's a lot of an emotional aspect to it, and it goes hand in hand. But if you're physically not balanced, if you physically don't eat well, if you don't start off your day properly, then I don't stand a chance helping you emotionally, because you're just physically hungry. And willpower, it goes kind of fast if you're just starving yourself half of the day, and then the other half of the day you're just binging on everything that comes along your way, and then it's like all or nothing. It's a slippery slope. Okay, I ruined the day. I had a cookie, so I might as well eat everything that comes along my way. So first I need to make sure this is in the right place. And that's why I work with the nutritional part, but also on the behavioral part and the educational, because you also need to understand what is it that you're doing wrong. And then I can work better on the emotional part.
Yeah. That's so do people understand first that there is something, I don't like to call something wrong, because that usually implies that you are not okay. you're not doing something, you're not right, you're not okay. And people many times associate and identify with their behaviors or with a certain action, and identifying with a certain thought about themselves, because where we come from, how we grow up, and all the beautiful stories there. So people identify with the thought that something is wrong. Do people understand? So when do people understand that there is something in their thought? Or do people understand that there is something that needs to change, not in the way that they thought they need to change? Do you know? Is it? Are they surprised at what you discover with them?
So I think so. First of all, I'm very okay. So I'll divide it into a few.
Yeah.
So I'm very open about my story. I tell it very loudly, very vividly. I'm not ashamed of anything that I went through. The other way around, I think it's made me who I am today. And I talk also about, the unnice things, the things that are not as pretty, because people talk about success, people talk about failure, about losing weight. And I said, okay, guys, and what about binge eating? And what about eating in the middle of the night? And those are the things that people are like, doesn't feel comfortable. But then I said, listen, so first of all, we all have a relationship with food. Relationship is a relationship, and in every relationship there's good and bad. The fact that you have a relationship doesn't make it anything more than it is.
Mm-hmm.
Many times people don't want to say I have a problem, but it's not a problem. Is you have a struggle with the situation. But then on the other hand, we also need to take under consideration, guys, let's for a second put aside Corona and let's go to our day-to-day life. We live in a society where it's all surrounded by food, that we celebrate with food, we feel sad with food, we congratulate ourselves with food, we comfort ourselves with food. Food companies and the processed food and junk food that put a lot of additives into our food and preservative that change our leptin and ghrelin, our hunger and satiety level. We're not as active. So there's also many variants that we need to really follow a healthy regime in order to really get our body into a good place. So it's not only to say, oh, I have a problem, but actually, like people sometimes say to me, I don't understand what about eating this and this and this. When we grew up, we were able. I say, listen, guys, we're not, and this is not the same ballgame. Life
That's
has
right.
changed.
It's not the same food, also.
Not the same food. Technology have changed. Remember,
Yeah.
did you have the technology doing what we're doing right now 40 years ago? Most likely, no. The same goes to food. So people need to understand that. And it's not saying we have a problem. It's just saying I need to be educated about something. I need to learn that new language, and then I can decide what I want to do about it.
Well, that's true, and that is where we are being pushed to look inside.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's scary.
And it is scary because it is unknown, and we tend our mind automatically wants to pull us to the known, and when we start something new, it's especially when we start something new. When somebody that is controlling somebody with power.
Yeah.
A dictator, right?
Yeah.
When they fear for their power, what do? Put more power.
Of course.
So the same thing with any kind that is our negative inclination. Yet so our negative our the side, our defaulted bodily side that goes to our desires, and we want. The animal, it's in Judaism, it's called the animalistic side.
Yeah.
The side that rides only on what I want. I want this now, I go. You don't stop to think, is that good for you? The desire, that's right. So during this time now, we are forced to really go inside. And everybody with their own story. And my heart against to everybody who is experiencing tough times now or sick. So health and blessings to everybody, everyone. But during this time, when we're going inside, this is a time really to go to the uncomfortable places, because only there is really where we can grow, when we can.
That's true.
Expand. So do you? I believe that you may go with people to a quite psychological journey.
So definitely we do go a psychological journey. Many times people tell me, you're like 80-90% of psychologists rather on nutritionists. I say, listen, I know I also work with coaches and psychologists and colleagues that I do refer, because I do believe that there's some things that are out of my reach and we need to go in more into a deeper place, and they need to have that space. But listen, it's scary to deal with things that we've been dealing with our entire life. You know, it's called numbing. We use food as numbing. We had a hard day. We are going through the coronavirus. We're going through, it's hard for us to deal with. Instead of dealing with the situation, what we're dealing with right now is, okay, I had something overwhelming. I'm now I'm going into the kitchen, opening and closing the refrigerator, eating, shoving food down my throat, most likely not even enjoying it, okay? And then I turn my state of mind, instead of focusing on the difficulties that I had, into now saying, why did I eat? I'm not good enough. I'm never be able to lose weight. Food has control over me, and et cetera, et cetera. That's called numbing, okay? That's classic one-on-one emotional. It's numbing. It's an outlet. Food is an outlet. So now, basically, a person first needs to realize that. And I have to say, during the last month in the coronavirus, and I have usually hundreds of people that are, and thousands of people that are in my groups, and then usually people not everyone say like I deal with emotional eating. Now everyone are kind of understand what it means, emotional and stress eating, because they're like in this situation where it's very, it's like an incubator. But then it's like, first, okay, what is it that is bothering me? And now I need to start asking questions. Why does it bother me? Why am I doing it? Is it a relationship? Is it me having difficulties? Is it me not loving myself enough? Is it me? So there's a lot of things that goes into it, and it's sometimes in the short term, it's really hard to deal with. In the long term, it's so harder to live your life like that. And I remember looking at myself 13 years ago when I went into therapy, and I said, if I'm going to continue a year from today doing the same thing, where will I be? And then I asked, where will it be a year from today? I'm going to change things. Okay, I put a smile on the face. And then I said, where will it be 10 years from today? I was happy. And then I thought, where will I be 10 years from today if I'm going to continue doing the same thing over and over again, abusing myself, my body, my soul, my mind? And that scared me. And that point I said, if this is the life I'm supposed to live, and I was also 20, so things were a little bit different, you know? I said, this is not a life I want to live. I want to create a better reality for myself. And it was hard. It was 2 years that were difficult for me, and I was pressed, and I gained weight, and I lost weight, and it was.
What was scary? What was scary for you when you saw? Oh, if I do this for how did you feel? What was scary for you?
When you have eating disorders and the extent that I had, or you suffer from severe emotional eating or any addiction that you have, you feel like you live in a prison in your own mind. And I couldn't, and it was consuming everything. I would wake up in the morning weighing myself 20 times. I would think about food all the time. I would think about my weight all the time. I would take food suppressors and diet pills, and I would exercise. Like, that was my main focus. There was nothing left for Karin, and let alone anyone else in my life. And you're not happy. You're never present in any situation because you're always consumed by your mind. You're never actually sitting down, having fun, laughing, enjoying, having a meal, whatever. It doesn't matter. Walking with, you're never present, which is a little bit similar to today's world with the iPhones, because we're never.
Well, talking about this, for example, I mean, we in a way, I see that in a way that we prepared ourselves for that. Before this outbreak, people were always, I would see people on their phone all the time, sitting in restaurants. I'm not excluding myself. I have my own share. We are all, but we
all sin in that.
Yeah, and we all sinned in that. A sin in English, anyway, it's lachti, is to miss the target. Never, we will talk about this later. But prepared for that. Everybody's in their phone, in their iPad. Families sitting in the table. Everybody's on their phone. Who are you? I don't want to talk to you. Do I know you? What do you owe me? All these kind of things. Cultivating isolation. Cultivating isolation, competition, and all the, instead of creating co-creation. And I feel that we are now co-creating this new paradigm. The paradigm has been in the shift already for a while, but we are creating this now. So it's kind of like preparing. And nobody would I don't think anybody that didn't know about this was prepared for that. So
Yeah.
when people are coming from a situation that quote unquote is normal and day-to-day lives, they're coming into a new situation. It's just like coming in this situation, and they believe, and we believe, and we want to believe that this situation is temporary and it's going
Yeah.
to end soon. And many people want to go back to normal life. I believe that it's not going to go back anything to what it was. It's only going to go to evolve somehow, to mutate somehow. But now with the same thing with food. If people look at this as a temporary thing, as a temporary period of time, and up until now you were working with a certain, you can eat this, go get this, go buy this, go get this. Now people cannot go and buy and get and all these kind of things that maybe did not think about this before. And if they have, it's for a very short period of time, because you can't just go to the stores very easily now, and online ordering. So do you find people that are looking at this as a temporary solution? Do you ask them the same questions you ask yourself? How are you going to think about in 10 years? How are you going to look like if you be determined and committed? I just see also like people that, I don't know about it, something else, never mind. But how do people see it as a temporary thing?
What,
Do you see people? No, the food, the way they're going to the food. And do they come now more than they before, or?
So I think it's a good question. I think it's kind of 50-50. So first of all, always people ask me, what is the key to success? And I'm like, the key to success is determination and actually consistency.
Success of what?
Success of losing weight and success of everything in life. Consistency is the answer by basically for everything, for relationship, for business, for everything. Sure. Consistent, you'll succeed. You won't be consistent. You won't, because you'll never be able to actually go through the process. And I always say, guys, the process, the journey is much more important than the result. Because if you've done the journey properly, you'll be able to keep any result that you want. If you just, it's like in math, you don't get any credit for giving the answer. You get credits for showing how you got to that result. And it's the same in here. So some of the people are like, oh my God, no, I can't deal with everything, this is too much for me, now in Corona. And in regular days, people are afraid of a change. A change is scary for them. They feel like the things they love will be taken away from them. And people use food as, I also say food is also a part of who we are. It's a part of our DNA. If us as Middle Eastern Israelis will now be told to eat, like, I don't know, like Asian food all day long, or Mexican
matzah. We eat matzah all year.
So if we'll be told to eat something that is very far-fetched from our culture, we can do it for a week, a month or two, but it's not us. It's not our DNA. It's not our identity. So people need to also create an environment that is also closely related to who they are, but to kind of restructure it in a way and understand that nothing will be taken away from you. There's deal breakers to everything, but if we change nothing, nothing will change. And a change is not necessarily scary, but a change needs to be constructed in a smart, strategic way. Because if you're just going to change everything all at once, tomorrow morning you're going to say, okay, I'm overweight, I weigh 300 pounds. Tomorrow morning I'm going to go for a 10-mile run. I'm going to drink green juice, and I'm not going to eat carbs for the rest of my life. And okay, yeah, well, how long?
How now, changing the environment and what you bring in, but now people are locked down.
Yeah.
You cannot change your environment now. Your environment is in your house.
Yeah.
If you're in a Moroccan family, I'm
also half Moroccan. So
I'm Asli. I'm full. So it's good food. Yeah. So you can't change your environment. You have a house and family members that they don't feel that they have anything going on, and they are enjoying what goes in and what slides down the throat, right? And they don't have a supportive environment. You know, it's kind of, and maybe it is somebody who is active, who is more active in the houseworks and taking care of the kids. So
I
it
think so.
is.
So I first of all believe in changing the entire household. I don't believe, okay. So, and I'll explain what it means. First of all, I dislike, and I would say even hate, sometimes people say to me, oh, one of my kids needs to lose weight, but everyone are going to continue eating the same thing and he won't be allowed, and we're going to make him special food. I'm like, no, that's the worst thing you can do in your life. This is full on giving your kids eating disorder, creating a bad relationship with food, feeling he's not
Creating
worthy.
another trauma.
Yeah, of course. So
Yeah.
first of all, it needs to be an overall change. Now,
Yeah.
in any culture, especially Middle Eastern, but any culture, Mexican, American, whatever it is, if we can take the food that we're eating, and if we're going to change a little bit of portions, if Moroccan, and for the ones who are not familiar with that, it's great food, lots of vegetables, but tons of oil. So
And
if we're going,
spicy.
and spicy is food. I'm talking about more about the oil, heavy on the
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah.
So if we're going to take everything and we're just going to remove the amounts of oil, and we're going to use higher quality oils like avocado oil for cooking or olive oil, and remove canola oil and corn oil, and then we're just going to reconstruct it, we can still stay in the same place, but just do it a little bit healthier. And that's easier for the entire family. You know, having more vegetables, having more proteins, maybe learning a little bit more on healthy food. And that goes for the entire family, because many people say, I don't need to lose weight, or my kids don't need to lose weight, or only one. I say, but it's not just about weight loss, it's about health. And coronavirus made it very clear and vividly. People that don't have any underlying diseases, that are healthier, and I'm not talking about in their 70s, people that are healthier and in good health the entire time, are more resilient to viruses, period. And we know that, and we understand it, and that made it very clear. We need to take good care of our health regardless of our weight. Weight is external.
Yes, because that's absolutely, and it's a consistency thing. You know, people, when they start getting sick, sometimes they start taking vitamins right then. Vitamins are not going to help if you just start taking them when you start going down with something, because they have to build what they need to build way before. So it's really a preventative maintenance, taking vitamins. Karin, you know, share about your story. Can you tell us about your, I'm sorry?
Personal story?
Your personal story.
Sure. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, as I said at the beginning of the conversation, food really, this profession really chose me, and I feel this is my destiny to do what I do. I grew up in a great house with self-acceptance, self-love. On the other hand, also, my dad was in the fashion industry. He was a fashion designer. And I grew up also in that environment. Not that I blame anyone. I just, sometimes environment also affects you, but it needs to be something from the inside. When I was about 11, I really, really started to play around with the food, eating, not eating. And I didn't really realize what I was doing. Yeah, I was 20
You
something.
didn't what? I sorry?
I didn't realize what I was doing.
I see.
It didn't have a name or a title or a category. There was no online Wikipedia to look it up. There was no, like, whatever, forums or chats. And it just gave me that sense of control. Eating disorder is a lot of sense of control. And I was able to control my food. And that sometimes is a trigger to not being able to control other things. I don't know what it was.
It's only a sense of control.
Sense.
It's important to say a sense. Yeah, to emphasize that.
It's not really control. It's a sense of control. You're controlling one thing that in probably many other places you're not being able to control. And that was my growing up. My teen life were very challenging internally. Externally, I tried to make everything looks really okay because I like to be in control on the outside. But I was starving myself. I was taking food suppressor. I would weigh myself 20, 30, 40 times a day. I would go to the gym excessively. In my lowest weight, I'm almost 5'9". In my lowest weight, I was probably 90 something pounds. So I was extremely skinny. I needed to be day hospitalized. I refused. I gained some weight. So it was a challenging time in my life. And it took me many years to even understand that I have a problem. In Israel, you go to the army when you turn 19. I really wanted to get to recruit to the army, so I gained some weight. I joined, and I also that time spent much more time on myself because I moved into a different apartment to be closer to where I was to my. Anyways, all hell broke because any barrier that I tried to have, I broke because no one could supervise me, and eating disorders and a relationship, it's a lot of hiding, it's a lot of lying.
I was just thinking that, yeah, it's a lot of.
So there was no deceiving anymore because it was full on just me. So it was the worst time in my life, really. Every day was misery, was suffering. And after 2 years, I finished the army. And like every good person in Israel, when you finish the army, you go travel the world. So I went to the Far East for a few good months. And for the first time in my life, I actually enjoyed. I was present. I didn't have food suppressors. I didn't have diet pills. I didn't have my scale. I didn't have the skinny, tiny jeans to see if they fit. I was still.
It wasn't as scary to connect to yourself.
No, all of a sudden, I actually enjoyed, and it was, and I didn't even comprehend or understand that time that I'm enjoying. It just, I was present, and then I came back home after a few good months, and everything came back. The thoughts, the obsession, the monster came back. It went back to the natural habitat, to feed the monster.
So that's a good example of the environment. Sorry to cut you. That's a good example of the environment
So environment really feeds, and that's why I always say it's like you need to remove triggers, you need to change environment, and it's not easy. So in that moment, I also did major environment changes. I quit my job. I left the fashion industry. I was enrolled to business and fashion school. I dropped out from school, signed up to learn holistic and natural nutrition, left the apartment that I was living. I changed everything, disconnected from a group of friends that I felt that they were not positive or were poison, environment to my situation. I just did a cut. I said, I need this for myself. I needed to make a decision whether I'm taking over the disease or the disease is taking over my life. And it was a choice. I chose me. Of course, it wasn't easy. And I went back to my therapist, but really went back without lying, without deceiving, with being actually honest. And that was the start of my journey. I spent 6 years in therapy. 2 years were intense. The rest was just because I loved it, because I discovered myself. I really understood how disconnected I was. I remember one of the first time, and I'll let you speak, one of the first sessions that I had with my therapist, which was also a former anorexic, she said, it's really hard for you to deal with your emotions, and that's why you have eating disorders, you turn into food. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I can deal with everything. I was so disconnected that I didn't understand what she was talking about and how miserably wrong I was.
So this is an example of people. What I was asking you earlier, do people understand that they have something that they need to work on? Like, you're not in control. Of course I'm in control. Everything is fine. They don't even understand that. How do you, well, if they wouldn't understand that, they probably wouldn't come to you, right?
Yeah.
Kind of rhetorical question.
Yeah, and I also think is that, listen, we all, never mind in which aspect in our life, we all have somewhere to progress and to work on. It's like it's creatures that we need to learn, to evolve.
Once we are done doing what we need to do here, we're not here anymore.
Yeah, it's like if we don't evolve, then what's the point? If we know it all, then I'm like, okay, so there's nowhere to go.
No, I don't know. Every day I discover how much of what I know is I don't know nothing.
Exactly.
Like
we know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know, and then we realize what is it that we don't know, and we need to focus on more.
Exactly. And the thoughts many times are those, like we started in the beginning to say, it is not the food, it is not the actual food or money or cigarette. It is the relationship to that.
Of course,
it is the relationship. It's like I given an example of 150 people lose their jobs today from a factory. In a year, are all these 150 people going to be in the same place?
Yeah.
They're not going to be, because it's the middle point, how we look at what is happening, that will dictate also the outcome. So this is very inspiring. This is what was in your when you came to there is a realization, and there
Yeah.
is a concept realization. You understand it, you're getting it, but then there is the translation between here and here,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
The
totally.
journey, the longest journey, it's like an 18 inches long all our life, from here to here, to get
Yeah.
to our body and to make things work. For you, what was the point between you realize it until you actually actioned it? Like, how long did it take you? Do you remember? And what was the thing that got you actually to, like, something clicked?
Well,
Something clicked.
when I came back home from a trip, that was
That's right, from the trip. But you went back. You went back into your into
therapist.
your no into your environment, right?
Yeah.
But within that environment, you found the power. You still have the reserved power from the back east to go in and to
So
actually do changes.
I think that that was a changing point for me. But I also have to thank to my mother,
Mm,
who's a therapist on her own, and really gave us a lot of infrastructure and a lot of self-love and a lot of education and a lot of awareness and consciousness, and took me, for many things. So maybe when I was really in denial, I couldn't see it. But once I started, clearing out, it all came back up because
mm,
it was there. She planted those seeds, but it took them a long time to really sprout and
yeah.
rise up. And that was also when did I realize my environment was it's just I don't know, it's just one point I was like, this can't be good, this is not the life I want to live, and
Mm,
that's it. And it was just like
mm.
that. Like I was
That's
very, on one hand, very with a very deep emotional um internal world, but then on the other hand, very, realistic, very doer. Like this is what
mm,
needs to be done. And I was like, okay, now the doer part comes in me. Like this is what I'm not happy about. Now I need to do. I can cry, I can be, depressed, I can da da da, but I need to do whatever it takes. I'm gonna do. So it was like kind of, that balance in between both of my worlds.
Did you feel that you are disassociating yourself from those bodily feelings? That you are creating this, oh, I'm controlling my body, meaning that this belongs to me. It is not me, but it just belongs to me. Did you find that you're starting to create that distinction between mind and
And
body?
body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was because it's like it's a distinction, but then on the other hand, a new connection that was created because it
Mm.
was never connected. It was like
It was isolated.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it was more reconnecting or connecting. I don't know if I was ever connected because I was like so young
Well,
when
we
it
forgot. We
yeah,
came connected, but we forgot. Yeah.
for sure. I'm saying from like as an adult perspective, I
Yeah.
never remember that. So, and up until these days, I'm super connected. Like every little thing that happens in my body, I'm super aware. I know how I feel. It's like it's always funny. Like everyone in my house is like, "How do you know?" I'm like, I just know. It's a connection that you have. And also when you eat, like when you live a healthy lifestyle and a clean, healthy lifestyle, it's like the body thanks you. Like it's
Yes,
not
absolutely.
only the mental, it's also what you actually practice and do.
That's right. So Corinne, we are a few minutes before something that can be general enough for everyone who is listening, because we are we're not targeting somebody, we're not talking about a certain person, but something that can help and guide people during this time. Something that is maybe to start so they can, it can cook in them, it can show them uh, relatively maybe some kind of results that give the satisfaction to continue. Because with people with addiction, if there is no, correct me if I'm wrong, but if there is no some kind of result because of the addiction, they may lose their power, lose the.
Yeah, so I think first of all is that to understand that a change can be made in any given moment. There's never a perfect timing. People say, oh, no, this is that. I say, listen, on the other hand, you can either look at it as like, okay, food right now is my therapy, or to say, okay, the world has paused, has stopped. You're not traveling, you're not eating out, you're staying home, you need to cook most of your meals. This is the best time in your life also to take care of your health, because it's like we need a strong immune system. We need a strong body. And we also need a strong mind. And this is now actually the time to work on your habits. Now, there will always be food, but we can either take this time and to say, okay, I can actually take this time to do the things that I never had the time to learn how to cook, to exercise more, to experiment more with stuff. Or I can just say, just going to continue to abuse my body. And guys, food won't make you feel better. That pizza is not going to change the world economy. It's not going to change the virus. It's not going to do anything. And it's not to say, oh, I don't want to give up. It's not giving up. It's choosing. And also, if you're choosing unhealthy food, do it in smaller portions, do it in moderation. But if we change nothing, nothing will change. And feeling sorry for ourselves or victimizing ourselves, we're all in the same boat in here. We're all in the same situation. And we can decide whether I want to wake up, be a better version of myself, to be an inspiration also to the people surrounding me, and to feel satisfied with the choices that I make, or to go back into the same situation over and over again, to feel that food has power over me, to feel that I have emotional eating, to never feel good about myself. And also believing that you can. Sometimes I work with women that are in their 20s and could be also in their 60s and 70s. There's no reason to compromise about how you feel and how you look. It's all a matter of our decision. And I'm more about doing and less about talking. And when there's a need to talk, we can talk it out, we can go into the depth, but there's no time. There's no time. So instead of thinking about it, start doing. Doing, and the energy of doing brings more energy of doing, of creation, of prosperity.
Yeah. Even if it's a housework, anything, just to get the body moving, and then that creates the thought. Sometimes we have to start from the end to start.
Sometimes you just need to do, then think. Think about it, analyze it, do whatever you want with it. Just get out of the couch and start doing, and it doesn't need to be crazy stuff. It doesn't need to be, oh, I'm going to now eat just chicken breasts and lettuce for the rest of my life, because it's like so boring, and who can do it? And it doesn't need to be to go run a marathon now, because you can't leave the house for so far. It's just doing 10-20% better than what you've done yesterday. That alone brings a lot. And that alone
That's right. Yeah.
And food maybe makes you feel good. That, like, I don't know, chocolate cake maybe makes you feel good for 10-15 minutes, but not really for the long term. And we have a tendency to appreciate our health only when we lose it.
That's right. Or anything else, even in a relationship. Once we lose it, sometimes we need it sometimes to wake up,
Yeah.
And I feel that when to go through these changes, God tells us, okay, you want to graduate from that.
Yeah.
The cost is the experience, and you go through this and you shift and you evolve. And Karin, how are we going to find you? And I'll type your address also in the comments later. But for people who are listening now,
so they can follow me on Facebook, Clean Diet by Karin, or Instagram, Clean Diet by Karin.
Clean Diet by Karin, K-A.
Clean Diet, so clean, C-L-E-A-N, by Karin, Clean Diet by Karin. You guys are following me, can follow me on Instagram. I upload recipes on Facebook as well. Also, my website, I have online programs and recipe books as well. So it's karinadoni.com that you can find everything. I'm also super available for any questions that you have, any inspiration.
Wonderful. I'll put the links for your site on the post after we're done with this. And for you who are there, the first thing when you get up in the morning, thankfulness, to wake up and to say, I open my eyes thank you. I'm here. Thank you. It is for me here to do and to discover. And so when starting with thank you, you start already with a place of understanding and receiving and accepting the beauty in what is here. And starting with the positive of what is here and what you have will give a nice bed to start, like a nice bed of salad. To have the salad, you have to have the bed of salad, so you have a good starting point. Focus and create magic. Karin Adoni, thank you so much
Thank you.
for being here and for sharing your gifts, wonderful gifts. And thank you, everybody who is here. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Take care. Thanks, Ronen.
You're listening to Abracadabra. Create what you speak.